What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Version, where we dissect different video games that came to home markets and the differences between them. Today we are doing the action fighter Mortal Kombat, which came out in October of 1992 to combat then champion Street Fighter II in the arcades. The game was developed by Ed Boon, John Tobias, and a team of two other individuals in less than 1 year. Originally, the game started off as a Jean-Claude Van Damme game, which explains why one of the leads in it, Johnny Cage, who is a Hollywood kung fu master, appears on the side of the arcade, and also why he is a prominent character. Along with Hollywood actor Johnny Cage, the roster includes Kano the Mercenary, Raiden the God of Thunder, Liu Kang of the Shaolin Monks, Masked Ninja Scorpion and rival Sub-Zero in the blue, and Sonya, who's chasing after Kano. As you can see, the game is a bit violent from the onset, but the real draw were the fatalities, which were moves you could do after defeating a person that would kill them. And in all their glory, here they are presented for you.
Scorpion wins fatality. Johnny Cage wins. Kano. Raiden wins. Liu Kang wins fatality.
Eventually, you would come to fight hulking monster Goro and then shapeshifter Shang Tsung in the final battle, with the canonical ending being Liu Kang winning the tournament. The game skated most of its controversy for its violence, probably because it was in arcades and not at home where parents could see it. That is until September of 1993, when Mortal Kombat finally came home.
Test your might. Test your might. Test your might.
On Monday, September 13th, 1993, otherwise known as Mortal Monday by fans, Mortal Kombat finally came to the home consoles of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Sega Genesis, the Nintendo Game Boy, and the Sega Game Gear. The biggest differences between all these versions, aside from graphic and visual fidelity, which we will analyze soon, is that Nintendo, in fear of parental outcry, decided to censor all violence and fatalities from the game itself, thus creating a dichotomy between those that had the Nintendo version that was censored for parents' likes and those that had the Sega versions that had all the violence in there. Now, being smart, Sega did implement a rating system by themselves, rating the game MA13, which basically is PG-13. Kids ran in droves, as this commercial suggests, to go pick up Mortal Kombat for any version. But for those of you who had the Sega console versions, you were able to unlock the blood with a seemingly simple code at the title screen. This began the Mortal Kombat craze within homes, and from now forward we will analyze the couple of different versions that came, excluding the Game Boy due to the fact that I was unable to ascertain a cartridge and therefore do footage. Honestly, the Super Nintendo version of this game is nothing to scoff at. Despite the violence being missing, this is the closest rendition of the arcade original you can find. All of the sound effects, many of the graphics, and pretty much anything you would expect from the arcade is held in great detail. The sprites are large and colorful in front of the screen. The only compromise seeming to be, aside from obviously the violence, being that the game moves a little sluggish. Any home version of this game has pretty weak controls, especially in terms of doing the super moves, but it's nothing that we weren't used to back in the day, and honestly, I don't notice much of the slowdown in the Super Nintendo version. The graphic compromise of the Sega Genesis version, which we will come to next, is definitely much higher rather than the gameplay footage.
Liu Kang wins.
As you can see, the finishing moves that replaced fatalities were laughable at best. Fortunately, thanks to Game Genie, there was an unofficial blood code that allowed you to integrate blood instead of sweat, which was the gray stuff that fell off the guys when you were normally fighting, which did a pretty decent job of giving you that Mortal Kombat feel. If you look at this Kano fatality here, it almost looks as real as the original. And now on to the Sega Genesis version. While it is graphically inferior, I must say I love the new soundtrack that was put in by Probe Software using the Yamaha chip. As you can see on this screen here, this was the word code where if you put in ABACAB, A-B-A-C-A-B-B, you would unlock the blood code as you can see here. Aside from the blood code, there was also a great cheat code where if you put on the title screen dullard or down, up, left, A, right, down, you would unlock a cheat menu, as you can see here as well, which did everything you could possibly want to do, including give yourself infinite health, give the guys one-hit kills when you'd hit them, choose the level you were on, which was great for unlocking reptile, and even one-button fatalities. It definitely just allowed you to debug, and is definitely one of those traits that's lost in today's game design, whereas they don't want you controlling anything. As you can see, as a result, the graphics on the Sega Genesis version are definitely compromised versus the Super Nintendo version, but it has its own charm, and having the blood in there definitely doesn't hurt, especially when you see at the end of this clip the fatality that is in all its violent glory.
Finish him.
Now, the Game Gear version is nothing really to scoff at. As you can see here, until the title screen, it can be mistaken for the Sega Genesis version pretty easily. Obviously, the sound is going to take some hits, and you'll see the graphics will take some hits, but the biggest part is that the blood is still intact. As you can see on this code screen here, and this is a slightly different version, but I believe it's the third code screen on most versions. I don't know if this glitched or what on my version, but either way, if you put in 212 down up, you'll see this now entering combat screen blinking, and you'll have the blood intact. As you can see, there's really only two levels, I believe, Goro's Lair and something else, and for the most part, you know, it doesn't really work out. But as a portable, it worked really great, much better than the Game Boy version, and there was blood and fatalities in there, even at the compromise of one of the characters. Last but not least is the Sega CD version. This came out a year later in late 1994. It's a little bit different. It's kind of a hybrid between the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis version. I did cut out the commercial real quick here, but that plays before the game starts. But as you can see, it's mostly the Genesis graphics, but there are some upgrades both in the sound and in the graphical fidelity that do bring it up above the Genesis version. It is a stripped-down version, as you can see here, though. There's very little options. But things like Sub-Zero's animation is not identical to Scorpion's as they are in the Genesis version. We're up to speed. Plus, it was given an MA-17 rating, so all the blood is intact from the get. It's basically the same as an upgraded version of the Genesis version, except for one little thing. Oop, load times. All kidding aside, it is a lot of fun, and it is probably one of the better versions to pick up if you happen to have a Sega and a Sega CD, because it takes out all the headaches. Again, nowadays there are a lot of digital versions of these games out there that are arcade perfect, so I definitely recommend you pick those up. But this has been the end of version of our first episode, which is for Mortal Kombat. Come check us out at gaminghistory101.com or our YouTube page, youtube.com/VGPTGS, and definitely hit me up at the contact link at gaminghistory101.com and tell me what games you'd like to see in version. So until next time, this is Fred Rojas and Gaming History 101 saying peace out. One of the leads in it, Johnny Cage, who is a Hollywood kung fu master, appears on the side of the arcade, and also why he is a prominent character. Along with Hollywood actor Johnny Cage, the roster includes Kano the Mercenary, Raiden the God of Thunder, Liu Kang of the Shaolin Monks, Masked Ninja Scorpion and rival Sub-Zero in the blue, and Sonya, who's chasing after Kano. As you can see, the game is a bit violent from the onset, but the real draw in the arcades. The game was developed by Ed Boon, John Tobias, and a team of 2 other individuals in less than 1 year. Originally, the game started off as a Jean-Claude Van Damme game, which explains why What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Version, where we dissect different video games that came to home markets and the differences between them. Today we are doing the action fighter Mortal Kombat, which came out in October of 1992 to combat then champion Street Fighter II.